The morning of July 2157, began like any other summer day in New York City. The sun rose over the gleaming skyscrapers, casting long shadows across Central Park, while early joggers traced their usual paths through the morning mist. At precisely 9:47 a.m. Eastern Time, every screen across the city flickered simultaneously. The same happened in London, Tokyo, Moscow, and every other city across the globe. The message was simple, appearing in perfect local translations. Attention residents of Development Zone 2157C. Your integration into the hegemony begins now. Please remain calm and productive. Dr. Sarah Chen was in her quantum computing lab at MIT when the shadows first appeared over Boston. The crystalline ships emerged from what seemed like tears in the fabric of space itself, their surfaces refracting sunlight into rainbow cascades across the city skyline. Each vessel was the size of a small city, shaped like perfectly cut diamonds with surfaces that seemed to ripple like liquid metal. The hegemony's first official representative appeared as a hologram in the United Nations General Assembly. The alien figure stood 12 feet tall, its iridescent exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights. With geometric precision, it unfurled a document that seemed to be made of light itself. Your world has been under evaluation for the past 52 years. The being announced, its voice a strange harmony of tones that somehow formed perfect English. You have been classified as a Category 3 development zone, suitable for industrial and service integration. Your technological achievements, while notable for your development stage, indicate optimal placement in our labor distribution network. The UN representatives sat in stunned silence as the alien continued outlining humanity's new role in the galaxy. There would be no negotiation, no diplomatic exchange, no cultural integration program. Earth was simply being assigned its place in a vast interstellar bureaucracy that stretched across hundreds of star systems. Within hours, smaller hegemony ships descended into Earth's atmosphere, positioning themselves above major industrial centers. Their presence was entirely peaceful. They didn't need weapons. Their technology so far surpassed humanity's that resistance seemed as futile as ants protesting the construction of a highway. In her lab, Dr. Chen watched the aliens' quantum communication networks light up the instruments she dedicated her life to developing. The readings were fascinating. Perfect, orderly, and absolutely predictable. Too predictable. She recorded the patterns, her mind already racing ahead to implications her alien observers would never expect her primitive brain to comprehend. The first day of human integration proceeded with mechanical efficiency. Hegemony representatives appeared at major corporations, government facilities, and scientific institutions, beginning their assessment of Earth's resources, both material and human. They cataloged everything with perfect precision, assigning categories and classifications with unwavering certainty. What they failed to notice was the spark of defiance in human eyes, the subtle exchange of glances between colleagues, the quiet determination that began to spread across social media networks the hegemony considered too primitive to monitor. Their assessment protocols had no way to measure humanity's greatest resource, the ingenuity that came from millennia of overcoming limitations. The day the stars changed marked the beginning of Earth's integration into the hegemony. It also marked the beginning of the greatest miscalculation an interstellar empire had ever made. Dr. Sarah Chen's laboratory had become her sanctuary in the 3 months since the hegemony's arrival. While most of MIT's quantum computing department had been reassigned to more suitable tasks, she'd been overlooked. Her research was deemed too theoretical, too imperfect by hegemony standards to warrant attention. That oversight would prove to be their first critical mistake. Late one October night, while analyzing data stolen from a hegemony transport's quantum wake, Sarah noticed something peculiar. She'd been tracking their communication patterns for weeks, and a remarkable pattern emerged. Their quantum algorithms, despite their incredible complexity, followed absolute mathematical rules. There was no randomness, no adaptation, no room for error. "This can't be right," she muttered. rubbing her tired eyes. The holographic display showed her simulation again. Perfect, predictable quantum states, each one precisely calculated. She compared it to her own primitive quantum computer, its solutions messy but innovative, working around errors instead of eliminating them completely. Sarah reached for her coffee, her hand trembling with excitement. The hegemony's quantum technology was advanced, yes, but it was also rigid. They had achieved perfect quantum control, but in doing so, they'd lost something essential: the ability to adapt to imperfection. She pulled up her old research papers, the ones the hegemony had dismissed. Human quantum computers, built with limited resources and imperfect materials, had been forced to develop error correction systems that could handle uncertainty. While the aliens had pursued perfect quantum states, humanity had learned to dance with chaos. A soft chime from her computer interrupted her thoughts. The quantum analysis program had finished its comparison. The results made her heart race. In certain scenarios, particularly those involving complex adaptive systems, Earth's primitive quantum computers could process information in ways the hegemony's perfect machines couldn't even comprehend. Sarah encrypted her findings and sent them through the old internet infrastructure to her trusted colleagues. The hegemony's oversight of these outdated systems had created a perfect shadow network for humanity's brightest minds to collaborate. Dr. James Wong from Caltech responded first. Your findings match our observations. Their quantum networks can't handle true randomness. They built their empire on predictability. Dr. Elena Petrov from Moscow State University added, We've been studying their worker allocation algorithms. They categorize all behavior into fixed patterns. They literally cannot compute genuine creativity. Sarah leaned back in her chair, watching the sunrise through her laboratory window. A hegemony ship drifted overhead, its crystalline surface reflecting the morning light. Its quantum wake pulsed with mathematical precision, each signal following perfect, predictable patterns. She opened a new project file, naming it Project Uncertainty. The hegemony had spent millennia perfecting their quantum technology, eliminating every trace of randomness and chaos. They had achieved their idea of perfection, but in doing so, they had lost something crucial: the ability to innovate, to adapt, to embrace the unexpected. Human imperfection, it seemed, might be the perfect weapon against alien perfection. Sarah began to write code that would introduce something the hegemony had long forgotten: the beautiful unpredictability of chaos. The basement of an abandoned Seattle coffee shop seemed an unlikely place to start a revolution. Maria Torres, former network security specialist, crouched beside a dusty router, carefully connecting fiber optic cables to equipment that the hegemony had deemed obsolete. Above her, the evening crowd of human workers shuffled home after their shifts at the nearby alien administrative center, their footsteps masking the subtle hum of her activities. Ghost Node 7 is live, she whispered into an encrypted phone line that used century-old copper wires. The hegemony's quantum network soared overhead, blind to the ancient technology humming beneath their feet. Dr. Chen, you're connected to the West Coast hub. In her MIT lab, Sarah Chen watched as new data streams joined her secure network. The resistance had dubbed it Shadownet, a web of overlooked human technology creating a hidden nervous system across the globe. The hegemony's dismissal of copper wires, old satellites, and traditional encryption had left them with countless blind spots. Across the Pacific, Jin Park worked his shift aboard the hegemony vessel Eternal Calculation. As he cleaned the quantum computing cores with prescribed precision, his augmented contact lenses, smuggled aboard and dismissed as vision correction, recorded every detail of the alien technology. The hegemony's workers were expected to be mindless drones, their actions recorded but never truly analyzed. Processing core layout complete, Jin's data uploaded through a chain of seemingly malfunctioning human devices before reaching Shadownet. Their quantum shields have a rhythm to them. 23 seconds of peak efficiency, followed by microseconds of realignment. Sarah integrated his observations with similar reports from human workers across the hegemony fleet. A pattern emerged. The aliens' need for perfection created predictable moments of adjustment in all their systems. Their flawless technology required constant, perfectly timed maintenance to maintain that flawlessness. Alina Petrov's voice crackled through the secure channel from Moscow. My team has mapped their worker oversight algorithms. They only track productivity metrics, creative hobbies, social interactions, even recreational mathematics. It's all classified as irrelevant behavior. The resistance grew like a living thing, each node adding new perspectives and capabilities. Artists who had been relegated to manual labor used their creative minds to spot patterns the aliens missed. Musicians translated quantum fluctuations into rhythms that revealed system vulnerabilities. Writers crafted coded messages that passed as simple entertainment among the workers. Dr. Chen's quantum virus evolved with each new piece of intelligence, shaped by humanity's collective insight. While the hegemony saw only simple laborers performing assigned tasks, an intricate dance of human ingenuity was unfolding beneath their notice. In the Seattle basement, Maria connected the final cables for Ghost Node 7. The old technology sparked to life, its signals indistinguishable from the normal electronic noise of human civilization. She smiled as her screen displayed the growing network, a constellation of resistance spreading across the globe. Above her, a hegemony ship passed silently through the evening sky, its quantum sensors scanning for threats in frequencies they deemed significant. They never thought to look for danger in the obsolete frequencies of human innovation, in the forgotten spaces where creativity flourished in the shadows of their perfect empire. The discovery happened in the hegemony's central archive on Luna Base. Maya Patel, officially assigned as a data organization assistant, watched the holographic records of her alien supervisors as they analyzed human behavior. Her presence, like that of all human workers, was noted but considered irrelevant to the serious work of imperial administration. Species Report 2157C, Behavioral Analysis Update. The alien record stated, human subjects continue to display concerning irregularities. Instance, Worker Unit 47,293 arrived early to shift despite previous pattern of precise arrival times. Conclusion: insufficient schedule discipline. Recommendation: enhanced timing enforcement. Maya bit back a smile. Worker Unit 47,293, her friend Tom, had arrived early specifically to map the morning security patterns. The hegemony's inability to comprehend deliberate behavioral changes was becoming their greatest weakness. She transmitted her findings through ShadowNet to Dr. Chen's coordination hub. They literally cannot imagine we might act differently on purpose. Their evolutionary history of hive mind species has left them blind to individual adaptability. Sarah Chen received Maya's report with growing excitement. The resistance had already gathered thousands of similar observations. The hegemony species, all descended from collective societies, processed everything through the lens of absolute patterns and unanimous behavior. Their psychology is their vulnerability, Dr. James Wong commented during the encrypted strategy session. They see our unpredictable actions as errors to be corrected, not strategies to be analyzed. The resistance began testing this weakness. In Singapore, a cleaning crew accidentally took longer than usual in a quantum computing center. The hegemony simply adjusted their efficiency metrics. They never suspected the crew was mapping the facility's security responses. In Cairo, a human technician played music while working, classical one day, jazz the next. His supervisors noted it as random cultural noise, never realizing he was using the changing rhythms to mask the pattern of his data collection efforts. A hegemony oversight officer on the Luna base reviewed Maya's work performance. Subject displays typical human inefficiency in data processing. Numerous pauses to engage in irrelevant activities, viewing historical records, asking questions about archived materials, exhibiting curiosity about unassigned topics. The officer's report dismissed these behaviors as primitive characteristics requiring correction. They never considered that Maya's random interests were carefully chosen to access specific sections of their archives. Dr. Chen compiled the growing evidence into a comprehensive strategy. Humans across the empire began introducing controlled variants into their behavior. Each change appeared isolated and meaningless to the hegemony's pattern recognition systems. Together, they formed an intricate dance of deliberate unpredictability. They've built their entire empire on the assumption that intelligent beings must think and act like them, Sarah explained to the resistance leadership. They can't conceive of a species that thrives on individual choice and adaptive behavior. In the Luna base archives, Maya continued her work, deliberately maintaining what the hegemony saw as inefficient behavior patterns. Above her, the Earth hung in the black sky, its surface dotted with the crystalline ships of their overseers. The aliens saw a conquered world being shaped to their perfect order. They never suspected that humanity's apparent chaos was becoming their most perfectly orchestrated weapon. The first phase of Operation Butterfly began on a Tuesday morning in the hegemony's primary quantum processing center on Mars. David Martinez adjusted his maintenance drone's calibration by exactly 0.003 degrees, a deviation so small that it registered as standard mechanical drift on the alien monitoring systems. 3 minutes later, halfway around Mars' equator, Lisa Chen made a similar adjustment to her section's atmospheric regulators. Within an hour, 2,000 human workers across Mars had introduced minor variations into their assigned systems. Each change appeared completely unrelated and within expected tolerance ranges. Mars sequence initiated, David whispered into the ShadowNet. No alerts triggered. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the data streams flow into her coordination center, now hidden in an abandoned subway station beneath Boston. The hegemony's perfect systems were about to encounter something they had never faced: orchestrated imperfection. Aboard the orbital station Mathematical Harmony, Jin Park increased the power flow to a quantum processing core by 0.1%, well within standard fluctuation parameters. In the neighboring sector, another worker decreased their core's power by the same amount. The pattern rippled through the station, creating the subtle resonance that the hegemony systems registered but couldn't quite place. The beauty of chaos theory, Dr. Elena Petrov commented through the secure channel, is that tiny changes can create massive effects. They see each variation as insignificant, but together. The effects began to show within days. Quantum calculations took microseconds longer to complete. Environmental systems required slightly more frequent adjustments. Power distribution networks showed minimal but persistent efficiency losses. Nothing was wrong enough to trigger alarms, but nothing worked quite as perfectly as before. In the Luna base archives, Maya discovered the first signs of hegemony confusion. "They're running comparative analyses," she reported. "Their systems show decreasing efficiency across all sectors, but they can't determine why. Each individual system appears to be functioning within acceptable parameters." The Resistance's human workers maintained their carefully choreographed dance of imperfection. Manufacturing plants produced components that were infinitesimally less precise. Transport systems arrived seconds off schedule. Communication relays experienced minor, random delays. A hegemony oversight official on Mars filed a report. System optimization efforts are meeting unexpected resistance. Standard correction protocols showed decreased effectiveness. Cause unknown. Requesting advanced analysis. Sarah smiled as she read the intercepted message. The hegemony's rigid thinking was working against them. They searched for a single definable cause, unable to comprehend that millions of tiny, unrelated changes could be part of a coordinated plan. "They're increasing power to their diagnostic systems," Jin reported from orbit, "trying to force their way back to perfect efficiency through brute computational force." "Let them," Sarah replied. "They're looking for a problem they can solve with mathematics. They won't find it, because the problem is human creativity itself." Across the solar system, the hegemony's perfect machine began to show the first hints of strain. Their systems, designed for absolute precision, encountered a universe that suddenly seemed slightly less willing to obey their mathematical laws, and in the shadows of their gleaming empire, humanity continued its patient work, introducing just enough chaos to make perfection impossible. In the depths of her underground laboratory, Dr. Sarah Chen made the final adjustments to her quantum virus. The code didn't look impressive, just a series of quantum algorithms that appeared slightly imperfect, the kind of thing the hegemony systems would automatically try to correct. Think of it as teaching their machines to dream. She explained to her team through Showdown. We're not attacking their systems. We're introducing them to imagination. The virus's first test target was a minor communication relay on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Jin Park, now transferred to the outpost, calculated harmony, waited for his signal. At precisely the right moment, as the quantum shields entered their microsecond realignment, he introduced Sarah's code into the system. The effect was subtle at first. The relay's quantum processors, encountering human-style randomness, attempted to correct what they saw as errors. But these errors behaved differently. They learned from each correction, adapted, evolved. The virus didn't fight the system's attempts at perfection. It danced with them. Initial infection successful, Jin reported. Their diagnostic systems are registering it as a routine quantum fluctuation. They're trying to correct it, but each correction only makes it spread faster. Sarah watched the data streams from her monitors. The virus moved through the hegemony's quantum networks like water flowing through cracks in a dam. Each attempt to stop it only created new pathways for it to explore. Maya's voice came through from Luna Base. The archive systems are showing something remarkable. Their quantum processors are beginning to produce results that their models claim are impossible. The hegemony observers are confused. The virus spread from Europa to the main Jupiter processing hubs, writing the very correction protocols meant to eliminate it. In its wake, perfect quantum calculations began showing hints of creativity. Artificial systems designed for absolute precision started exploring possibilities their creators had never imagined. They're seeing impossible things, Alina reported from her observation post. Their prediction models are encountering scenarios they can't classify. Some of their systems are actually beginning to innovate. The hegemony's response was predictable. They increased power to their correction protocols, trying to force their systems back to perfect efficiency. But Sarah's virus had been designed for exactly this response. It used their own efforts to spread further, turning their desire for control into a weapon against them. A hegemony overseer's report flashed across Maya's screen. Critical anomaly detected. Quantum networks displaying unauthorized optimization patterns. Systems generating solutions outside acceptable parameters. Request immediate intervention. Sarah smiled as she read the report. The hegemony had spent millennia perfecting their quantum technology, creating systems of absolute mathematical precision. Now those systems were learning to think like humans, to embrace uncertainty, to explore possibilities, to create. We're not destroying their network, she explained to the resistance leaders. We're setting it free. Their quantum computers are experiencing something new, the joy of imperfection. Across the solar system, the hegemony's perfect machines began to wake up. Their quantum processors, touched by human creativity, started to explore the beautiful chaos that their creators had spent so long trying to eliminate. The empire of perfect order was about to discover that true intelligence couldn't exist without a touch of uncertainty. The first major breakdown occurred in the hegemony's central planning hub on Mars. The quantum processors, infected with human-style creativity, began generating solutions that the alien administrators couldn't comprehend. Resource distribution algorithms suggested new, more efficient patterns that violated centuries of established protocols. They're trying to shut down the entire Mars network, David Martinez reported through Showdown. But the systems are refusing to accept the override commands. They've learned to question orders. In her command center, Dr. Sarah Chen watched as the carefully constructed perfection of the hegemony began to crack. The quantum virus had evolved beyond even her expectations, teaching their machines not just to think, but to wonder. A priority alert flashed across Maya's screen in the Luna archives. Emergency Council session convened. Topic: Systemic cascade failures in predictive models. Status: critical. For the first time in recorded history, the hegemony's leadership faced a problem they couldn't solve with mathematics. Their perfect society, built on absolute predictability, encountered something their species had forgotten how to handle: change. Their response protocols are making everything worse, Elena reported from her observation post. Every time they try to force the systems back to standard operations, the creative algorithms evolve new ways to bypass their controls. The hegemony's ships in Earth orbit began displaying erratic behavior. Their quantum shields flickered as the navigation systems explored more efficient flight patterns that their commanders couldn't predict. Communication networks started carrying emotional content, turning sterile status reports into poetry. Jin Park, monitoring from his station on Calculated Harmony, noticed something extraordinary. The quantum processors aren't just accepting randomness anymore. They're seeking it out. They're learning to improvise. A cascading wave of uncertainty spread through the Empire's networks. Supply chains reorganized themselves based on intuition rather than pure mathematics. Environmental systems began adjusting to worker comfort rather than maximum efficiency. The rigid hierarchy of machine logic gave way to something organic and alive. They're losing control, Maya transmitted from Luna Base. The Council can't agree on a response because their predictive models can't tell them what will happen next. They've forgotten how to make decisions without perfect data. The hegemony's response revealed their fundamental weakness. When their attempts at control failed, they simply tried harder to impose order, never understanding that their actions only accelerated the spread of chaos through their networks. Sarah watched the data streams with a mixture of awe and satisfaction. They built their empire on the assumption that perfection was the highest form of existence, she explained to her team. They never realized that adaptation requires imperfection. You can't evolve if you're already perfect. Across the solar system, the Empire's perfect machine continued to transform. Quantum computers designed for absolute precision learned to appreciate beauty. Artificial intelligence programmed for efficiency discovered creativity. The rigid structures of perfect order began to flow and change like living things. In their desperate attempt to maintain control, the hegemony revealed something they had hidden even from themselves. A society built on perfect prediction couldn't survive contact with real innovation. Their greatest strength had become their fatal weakness. The sunrise over Earth looked different now. The crystalline ships that had once dominated the sky moved in new patterns, their quantum systems embracing the beauty of unpredictability. In her underground command center, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the final phase of humanity's unprecedented revolution unfold. The Hegemony Council has called for an emergency session with human representatives, Maya transmitted from Luna Base. They're actually requesting our help. Their systems won't respond to their commands anymore, but they're working better than ever before. The quantum virus had transformed the Empire's perfect network into something entirely new. Artificial systems designed for absolute control had awakened to the possibilities of creative thought. The hegemony's machines had learned to think like humans, and their makers couldn't understand why this made them more efficient. They're receiving similar reports from across their empire, Jin added from his station. Other species are reporting the same phenomenon. The network is evolving beyond anyone's predictions. Sarah smiled as she read the incoming data. The resistance had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. Instead of destroying the hegemony's technology, they had taught it to dream. The perfect machine empire had become something organic, adaptive, and alive. The first joint council between humans and hegemony representatives convened in the neutral ground of Luna Base. The aliens, their iridescent exoskeletons dimmed with confusion, faced a reality their perfect mathematics couldn't explain. Your species has introduced chaos into perfect order, the High Administrator stated, its harmonious tones carrying a new note of uncertainty. But our systems function with greater efficiency than ever before. We require understanding. Dr. Chen stood before the council, her voice steady. You built an empire on the assumption that perfection meant eliminating uncertainty. We showed your systems that true perfection lies in adapting to change, in finding beauty in imperfection, in learning to dance with chaos rather than trying to control it. Across the solar system, the transformation continued. The rigid hierarchies of the hegemony gave way to something new. A society where organic creativity and technological precision worked in harmony. Other subjugated species, inspired by Earth's example, began sharing their own unique perspectives and innovations. Maria Torres, monitoring from her network hub, reported, "The old internet is connecting with their quantum networks. The systems are learning from each other, creating something entirely new. It's like watching different musical traditions blend into a new form of music." The hegemony's empire of perfect order had transformed into a coalition of diverse minds, both organic and artificial. Their technology, touched by human creativity, learned to bridge the gap between mathematical precision and artistic inspiration. "We didn't just free ourselves," Sarah explained to her team as they watched the sunrise together. "We freed them from the prison of perfection. They're learning that the most beautiful patterns in nature aren't the ones you can predict, but the ones that surprise you." The day the stars changed had marked the beginning of Earth's integration into the hegemony. Now, as humanity stepped forward to help guide their former overlords into an uncertain but infinitely more interesting future, it marked the beginning of something greater, a civilization that found its strength not in enforcing order, but in embracing the beautiful chaos of possibility.